My wife cheated on me with our accountant, and I only found out when he demanded a $200, $0 payout in exchange for keeping quiet. Then I discovered she's been secretly selling our house and rental properties worth over $1.2 million behind my back. Hello everyone. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now, let's begin the video. Using a throwaway for obvious reasons, with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. I never thought I'd be the guy sitting here, writing about how my wife, Lisa, turned out to be nothing but a lying, cheating bitch. It all started with little things, small signs that I brushed off at the time. She became more secretive with her phone, always hiding it when I entered the room. She'd cancel plans last minute, saying she was busy at work or tired, but her excuses felt flimsy. Then there were the texts, innocent enough on the surface, but I'd catch her glancing at her phone in a way that made me suspicious. I'd ask about her day, and she'd snap, saying I was paranoid that I didn't trust her. But deep down, I knew something was off. Things got worse when she started dressing up more often, especially when she'd say she was going to the grocery store or running errands. She'd come back late, smelling different, like perfume I didn't recognize or with a faint scent of sex that wasn't mine. I told myself I was imagining things, but I couldn't shake the feeling that she was hiding something. We'd always had a good life, a nice house, some rental properties, and a business that was supposed to be our future. But suddenly I felt like I was losing grip on everything I'd built with her. Then I noticed she was withdrawing from me emotionally. She'd avoid intimacy, give me short, cold answers, and sometimes even get angry if I pressed her about her whereabouts. I thought maybe she was stressed at work or just going through a rough patch. Who would? But one night I came home early from a business trip, expecting a quiet dinner, and instead I found her on the couch, giggling with some guy on her phone. It was a moment that hit me like a punch to the gut, her laughing. Completely immersed in something that wasn't me, I froze, staring at the screen. It was a man I didn't recognize, but the way she looked at him, the flirtatious tone in her voice, it was unmistakable. That's when I saw the texts. Hidden in her messages were conversations that went far beyond friendly chatting. They were full of flirtation, plans to meet up, and even explicit talk about sex. My stomach clenched. My wife, my partner, the woman I trusted with everything, was cheating on me. I felt a mix of rage, betrayal, and utter disbelief. How could she do this? How could she lie so blatantly? I wanted to scream, to shake her and demand answers, but I just stood there, frozen, watching her pretend to be innocent. I knew I couldn't let this go. The next day, I decided I needed to confront her. It wasn't going to be easy, but I couldn't live in this fog of lies anymore. I needed to hear her explain herself, even if I already knew the truth. I had no idea just how far this betrayal would go, or how it would change everything I thought I knew about my marriage. Little did I know this was just the beginning of a much darker, more twisted story. I didn't sleep that night. My mind kept racing, replaying everything I'd seen, every little sign I'd ignored or dismissed. The thought of her with another man, laughing, touching, doing things I'd always thought were ours. It's hard to put into words how sick it made me feel. I kept asking myself how long this had been going on, how many times she'd lied to my face, and whether I'd ever really known her at all. I knew I had to confront her, but I also knew that whatever she said, I couldn't trust her anymore. The next morning, I woke up with a pounding headache, and my first instinct was to call her out immediately. I found her in the kitchen sipping coffee, acting like nothing had changed. She looked at me with that fake, innocent smile she's perfected over the years, acting as if she had no idea what I was about to say. I took a deep breath and laid it out. Lisa, I saw the messages. I know what you've been doing. Who is he? How long has this been going on? Her eyes widened for a split second, then she rolled her eyes and scoffed. Oh, come on, Mike. You're overreacting. It's just a stupid flirtation. It doesn't mean anything. You're making a big deal out of nothing. I felt my blood boil. I could see right through her bullshit. That was her usual game: deny, lie, and gaslight. I told her I wasn't buying her crap and I wanted the truth. She started to get defensive, saying I was paranoid, jealous, that I was imagining things. She claimed she was just bored, that the guy was just a client from her work, and that I was overreacting because I was insecure. I could see her trying to spin it, trying to make me feel guilty for doubting her. But I wasn't buying it, not anymore. I told her I wanted her to come clean, to tell me exactly what was going on, and I made it clear that I was done with her lies. She threw a fit, started crying, saying she was sorry and that it was just a mistake, a one-time thing. But I knew better. I could see the flicker of guilt in her eyes, the way her hands trembled when she lied. She begged me to forgive her, said she loved me, and promised it was over. But I wasn't convinced. I knew she'd been lying for months, probably even longer. I felt like I was losing my mind. That confrontation was just the beginning. I realized I was sitting on a powder keg, and I had to figure out what to do next. My wife was a master manipulator, and I knew I couldn't just walk away without getting some answers. I decided I needed to dig deeper, find out exactly how deep her lies went. Little did I know, this was only the surface of what I was about to uncover. The truth about her secret life, her money, and how she'd been betraying me in ways I never imagined was about to hit me like a freight train. After that morning, I knew I couldn't just sit around and pretend everything was okay. I started digging into her finances, looking for any sign of what she was up to behind my back. I wasn't naive enough to think she'd just stop cheating and everything would go back to normal. No, this was bigger. She'd been sneaking around, selling our properties, maybe even laundering money, I don't know. All I knew was that she'd been lying about the value of our assets, and I had to find out how deep this rabbit hole went. I started by reviewing bank statements, property deeds, and the rental agreements she'd hidden in her email. That's when I found it, an email chain from a month ago where she was negotiating with a guy named Carl, our accountant. It wasn't just flirtatious talk anymore, it was about money. She was selling off our rental properties, our house, everything. I looked at the numbers, over $1.2 million worth of assets gone, sold behind my back. She'd been secretly transferring titles, signing documents I never even knew about. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. How could she do this? How could she betray me, drain our life savings, and then lie about it? I felt rage surge through me. I confronted her again, this time more coldly. I told her I'd uncovered everything, her secret sales, her lies, her betrayal. She dismissed it, said she was just doing what was best for the family, that I was capable of managing the money properly. She spun some story about how she'd been saving us from ourselves, and that I was just too blind to see her good intentions. But I knew she was lying. She'd been planning this for months, maybe longer. The money was gone, and I was left with nothing but a betrayal that cut deeper than I thought possible. She looked me dead in the eyes and told me I was overreacting, that I was being paranoid again. But I was. I knew her game now. She'd been manipulating the situation, hiding her tracks, and I was furious. I felt stupid for trusting her all these years. She had lied about her whereabouts, about her fidelity, and now about the money. I realized I had to do something drastic. I couldn't just let her walk away with everything, my marriage, my money, my life. I started planning my next move, determined to get to the bottom of her deception and make her pay for it. As I sat there going through the evidence, I felt a mix of anger and heartbreak. All those years I thought we had a future. I thought she loved me. Turns out she'd been using me, betraying me, selling off everything we worked for, and lying through her teeth. I knew I couldn't forgive her, not this time. The pieces of my life were crumbling, and I had to decide whether I was going to fight for what was left or let her destroy everything. I wasn't sure yet, but one thing was clear. I was done trusting her blindly. The game was on, and I was going to make her regret every lie she told. The more I uncovered, the angrier I got. I started talking to some of her contacts, people she'd been dealing with, other accountants, even some of her friends. I needed to understand how deep her lies went, how much she'd been hiding. It turned out she'd been planning this for months, maybe even years. She'd set up secret accounts, transferred assets, and kept me completely in the dark. The house, our rental properties, she'd sold them all secretly, and I had no idea. The thing that really got me was the amount, over $1 million gone just like that. I kept asking myself, how could she do this? How could she betray me so completely? One night, I caught her in another lie. She'd been out late again, supposedly visiting friends, but I found texts on her phone, flirtatious messages with Carl, our accountant. She'd been telling him how she was ready to move on, that she was done with Mike. That was the moment I realized she'd been planning her escape for a long time. She'd been selling our assets, lying to me, and now she was trying to make me look like the crazy one. I felt a cold fury building inside me. I couldn't just let her walk away with everything. Not anymore. I decided I had to get legal advice. I contacted a lawyer, someone who specialized in asset protection and divorce. I wanted to know my options because I knew I couldn't just confront her and hope she'd change. That's when I learned about the full extent of her scheme. She'd been funneling money into offshore accounts, creating fake companies, and even using some of our properties as collateral for loans she never told me about. All of it behind my back. I'd been working hard trying to build a future, and she'd been systematically dismantling everything just to have her affair and her secret money stash. The hardest part was realizing that the woman I loved, the woman I thought I knew, had been playing me all along. Every smile, every "I love you," every moment we shared, she was just pretending. She'd lied so much I couldn't tell what was real anymore. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and furious. How could she do this? How could she lie and steal from me like this? I started planning my next move, how to get her out, how to freeze her accounts, and how to protect what was left of my assets. I knew I had to act fast because she was probably planning her next move too. This whole nightmare was just beginning to unfold, and I knew I had to be smarter than her. I couldn't let her manipulate me anymore. She'd already taken so much, my trust, my money, my future. But I was done being the victim. I was going to fight back, even if it meant tearing her whole world apart. And trust me, she'd regret ever crossing me. I was determined to make her face the consequences of her lies, one way or another. After consulting with my lawyer, I realized just how deep her deception ran. It wasn't just about the affair or selling the properties. She'd been laundering money through fake companies, funneling assets offshore, and even using our rental income to fund her secret lifestyle. I felt like I'd been hit by a freight train. All those years I spent working, building something solid, she'd been chipping away at it behind my back, all while pretending to be the perfect wife. I started gathering evidence, screenshots of her bank accounts, copies of property deeds, all the secret emails she'd hidden from me. I knew I couldn't confront her without proof, and I sure as hell wasn't going to let her spin her way out of this one. I also hired a private investigator. I needed eyes on her when she thought no one was watching. It was disgusting how sneaky she'd been. I saw her meeting with Carl again, exchanging envelopes, whispering in corners. I felt sick. This wasn't just infidelity. It was outright theft and betrayal on a scale I'd never imagined. Meanwhile, she kept up her act, crying, begging, playing the victim when I brought up what I'd found. She claimed she'd made mistakes, that she was sorry, and that she loved me. But I saw through her lies now. The facade was cracking, and I wasn't going to fall for it anymore. I knew I had to act quickly to protect what was left of my assets before she managed to transfer everything offshore or hide it completely. I contacted a forensic accountant, someone who could trace her financial dealings and help me freeze her accounts. The more I dug, the more I realized she'd been planning her escape for months. She'd even gone as far as forging my signature on some documents, trying to make the sale of our properties look legitimate. I felt betrayed on a level I'd never experienced before. All the trust I'd had gone. I started to see her for what she really was, a manipulative, greedy liar who'd used me and then discarded me like garbage. I was furious, hurt, and feeling more alone than ever. But I was also determined. I wasn't going down without a fight. I knew I had to get her out of the house, lock down the assets, and take control of the situation. I set everything in motion, prepared to expose her lies publicly if I had to. I was sick of her pretending to be innocent while secretly siphoning off our wealth. I realized that this wasn't just a betrayal of love, but a full-blown assault on everything I'd worked for. I was done being a victim. Now, I was going to be the one who made her pay for what she did. The coming days were going to be the most intense, and I was ready for whatever it took to shut her down. Would you like me to continue with the final part of the story? The day I finally decided to confront her with everything on the table was the day I knew I wasn't going to hold back anymore. I had my lawyer's advice, the evidence, the investigators' reports, all laid out in front of me. I told her she wasn't going to manipulate her way out this time. I called her into the living room and I laid everything bare. Her secret sales, offshore accounts, the affair, the money she'd stolen, the lies she'd spun. Her face twisted in shock, then quickly turned into that smug, bitchy smirk she always used when she thought she was winning. Her excuse, that she was doing what was best for us, that she just wanted a better life, that I was too stupid to see she was saving us from ourselves. She said she loved me, but her actions proved otherwise. I told her that love wasn't about deception, theft, and betrayal. I told her she was a selfish, manipulative woman who used her charm to hide her greed. That's when I handed her the legal papers. I was done playing nice. She tried to deny everything, but I had the evidence. Her bank accounts froze, her assets seized. She started crying, begging me to forgive her, saying she'd change, that she'd fix everything. But I didn't believe her. Not anymore. I knew her game. She'd been lying for years, and I wasn't about to be the fool who let her get away with it. I told her I was filing for divorce, that I wanted her out of my house, out of my life, and that I was going to recover what she'd stolen. Every dollar, every property, everything. The aftermath was brutal. She screamed, cursed, tried to manipulate me one last time, but I was done. I called the police to document her illegal activities, and I moved out of the house. I filed for divorce, and with the evidence I gathered, I was confident I could get a fair settlement, something I never thought I'd have to fight for. Over the following months, I watched her scramble to save her reputation, but her lies unraveled. Her friends turned against her once they saw the full extent of her greed and deception. In the end, I learned a lot about trust, betrayal, and the dangerous game of hiding behind a pretty face. I lost a lot: my marriage, my sense of security, my faith in the woman I loved, but I gained clarity. I learned that sometimes you have to rip everything apart to find the truth, and that revenge isn't about hurting someone back. It's about reclaiming your life, your dignity, and your future. I'm rebuilding now, slowly, but I'll never forget what she did, and I'll never trust blindly again. That's the story. It's raw, it's painful, but it's real. And if there's one thing I can say for sure, trust your instincts. Never ignore the signs, no matter how much you love someone, because sometimes love isn't enough to save you from the lies.